Welcome to Sleepless Readings. Tonight we'll be reading A Tale called I Think I Created a Paradox. This is the story of how I lost all of my friends. It's not what you think. We didn't just have a falling out and stop being friends. I lost them. They're dead. Every one of them. And it's my fault. The point of me writing this isn't to gather pity. God knows I don't deserve it. But I want to get the truth out. It's about time. Everything happened in the summer of 2014. We all just got done graduating from high school and were living it up until we had to go to college in the fall. There were 5 of us in our friend group, including me. There was Tony, Rob, Charlie, and Bianca. Tony, Rob, and I grew up together. Our parents were already friends, so that made us friends. We became friends with Charlie through baseball in middle school, and Bianca bailed us out so much during class that we figured we'd add her to the group. God, I miss them. The whole summer was going great until halfway through July. One summer morning, I woke up to the strongest earthquake I've ever felt. Living in Southern California, I'm no stranger to earthquakes, but this one was so much more powerful than any I experienced. I immediately jumped under my bed. It's what my parents taught me to do since I was young in case of an earthquake. When the earthquake stopped, I got out from under my bed and I noticed there was no damage. Like, none at all. None of my pictures were even crooked. An earthquake like that should have taken my whole ceiling out. I walked out of my room to see how the rest of the house was, and it was just like my room. Everything looked normal out there, too. I shrugged it off as me just having an intense dream, because I've heard stories of things like that happen. I went to sleep not knowing what tomorrow was going to throw on my plate. My mom woke me up in the morning, which bothered me because it's summer and it's early. She looked mortified, like someone just stabbed our dog in front of her. She sat down on my bed, and to this day I can see her dreadful eyes looking at me. She told me Rob was killed last night. She told me that Rob was trying to convince his parents that he felt an earthquake in the middle of the night, even though no one else felt it. They dismissed him to his room, believing he was high or something, and then awoke to find him lying in a pool of his own blood. They said that his TV fell out of the mount in the wall and fell on his head, instantly killing him. I was in disbelief. He felt the same earthquake I did? If both of us did, how come no one else did? I had too many questions going through my mind, but the one I couldn't shake was, how am I alive when he's dead? I sat there and I cried. I cried until I couldn't anymore, while my mom held me. I just lost my best friend of 13 years, and I have no idea what the hell is going on. Once I got myself together, I FaceTimed the rest of our group. They all got the news this morning, as I did. But when I asked about the earthquake, none of them felt it, just like mine and Rob's parents. We all decided to meet up. We didn't want to be alone. Whenever me and my friends meet up, we go to the same spot every time. We met at a picnic table behind the local barbecue place, Porker's. Looking back now, it was a strange place to meet, but no one was ever back there, and it always smelled like barbecue. When I got there, everyone else was already sitting at the table. I walked over and hugged everyone, and we talked for a few minutes. Tony brought up how Rob apparently felt an earthquake last night, but he didn't feel anything himself. Bianca and Charlie agreed and said they didn't feel anything either. I didn't know if I should tell them I felt the earthquake or not. I still had so many questions that needed answers. I decided not to tell them, and I lied, saying I didn't feel it either. A couple weeks went by. Everything seemed back to somewhat normal. We had Rob's funeral. It sucked. A lot. We were all a wreck. I tried to hold it in, but I just couldn't. That was my best friend lying in a coffin in front of me. Something no one should ever have to see. We all missed him so much, but we felt we had to continue our lives. That's what he would have wanted. Shit started to hit the fan again the first week of August. I was spending the night at Tony's new apartment. Bianca was there too. Tony was the first one of us to move out, so we were always hanging out at his apartment. This night started off harmless enough, just like the other nights. We were all hanging out and drinking. It was late, probably around 1 a.m, when I felt it. The whole apartment building started shaking violently. It was another earthquake. I stumbled under a table as fast as I could, holding on to dear life. When I looked up, Tony and Bianca were just standing there, staring at me, laughing. They had no idea why I just ran under the table. They said they didn't feel an earthquake. I tried pleading with them to make them think I wasn't crazy. How couldn't they feel it? We're in the same damn room, I thought to myself at the time. They had no idea what I was talking about. A feeling of dread came over me. The last time I felt this earthquake, Rob died. Tony and Bianca seemed to be okay, but Charlie wasn't there. I immediately called his phone. No answer. I started to freak out and had Tony and Bianca try to reach him. They couldn't. I told them Charlie might be in trouble and that we need to get to him as quickly as possible. They both looked at me like I was crazy, even more so after I explained to them how I felt the earthquake the first time. They questioned me on why I didn't tell them I felt it when Rob died, but I just couldn't tell them then. I finally convinced him we needed to go check on him, but by the time we got there, it was too late. When we pulled up to Rob's house, we saw the police and the paramedics there. I already knew he was dead without having to go inside. Tony and Bianca were scared. They were scared of me, as they should be. I had no idea what was going on, but I knew I had something to do with it. It couldn't have been a coincidence. How was I the only other person to feel an earthquake besides the 2 people that died from it? Tony dropped me off back at home where my parents were waiting. They already heard about Charlie. Word moves quick here. My mom hugged me while she cried. Losing one friend is tough. Losing 2 is just shitty. The next morning, we learned the details of Charlie's death. It was eerily similar to Rob. Charlie complained to his parents about feeling an earthquake, which of course they didn't feel because I was the only other person who did. They went to go check on him to make sure he was okay, but this time, his head was cut straight off, like execution style. This was no accident. There was nothing left at the scene, not even Charlie's head. Hearing that, I almost puked. Having another one of your best friends die is one thing, but having them brutally murdered, now that just sucks. I spent the next couple of weeks thinking about what has happened and how I'm connected to the whole thing. Charlie's parents were still looking for answers. Tony and Bianca stopped talking to me completely. Apparently they're okay with losing 3 friends. Whatever, I couldn't really blame them. They think I caused these deaths, and I'm starting to think they might be right. I haven't felt an earthquake in 3 weeks now. I was hopeful that was the end of that. Boy, was I wrong. 3 days before I was supposed to leave for college, I felt it again. This time, it felt different, though. I wasn't scared of it. If anything, I embraced it. I knew what it brought, and at this point, I didn't care. I tried to explain it to Tony and Bianca. They didn't want to listen to me, and this is what happens. All of my empathy and confusion went out the window. I felt power during this earthquake. I felt the world crushing beneath me, and I loved it. It ended as soon as it began. The walls and floor stopped shaking, and I snapped out of whatever I was feeling. Now I was worried. Why did I feel like that? I knew that the earthquake most likely meant another one of my friends was dead, but at the time I thrived on that. Now I'm horrified to see the results of that night. The next morning, I awoke to some good and bad news. The good news, one of my friends didn't die last night. The bad news, 2 of them did. Tony and Bianca were both found dead in Tony's apartment. It was even more gruesome than Charlie's death, if that's possible. Tony's torso was found on his toilet. Just his torso. His legs were found in the shower, his arms in the dishwasher, and his head right on the kitchen table. Bianca was found cut in half. The top half was swinging from the ceiling fan, while the bottom half was sitting on the couch. I wasn't even affected by the news when my mom told me. I've had all of my friends die this summer. This wasn't anything new. However, how graphic the whole scene was certainly raised some questions. I figured I was the next to go. Maybe whatever this was saving me for last. I'm not sure what it was or what it wanted from me, but I figured it was my time. That night, I sat in bed waiting. I knew the earthquake was coming for me. I was right. I felt the room start shaking violently, and I figured it was my time. To my surprise, the earthquake stopped, and I was fine. When I looked up, there was a book laying on the floor. It wasn't my book, and it wasn't here before, so I thought it must have had something to do with the earthquake. When I opened the book, I was petrified. It was pictures taken of me, but I looked a little different, with plans of how to kill me. There was a whole elaborate plan to take me out. One of the options discussed was to make it look like an accident, to have my TV fall on me in the middle of the night, just like how Rob died. Another option was to just flat out cut my head off, just like Charlie. And the last was the most fucked up. It suggested mutilating my body and spreading it around the house, just like what happened to Tony and Bianca. My mind began to spiral. Why would anyone want to kill me, especially like this? And how come all my friends died in the exact same way that was described in here to kill me? I flipped through the book frantically to look for answers. When I got to the last page, I was ready to freak out. There were 4 signatures in the back of the book. It looked like a blood pact. The names were Charlie, Rob, Tony, and Bianca. My 4 best friends conspired to kill me. Why? I had so many questions, but the biggest one I had is, who killed them all? Now I know what you're thinking. I'm probably crazy and wrote the book myself, trying to justify my killings of my 4 friends. That would just be lazy and predictable. What really happened is far more complicated. My friends did plot to kill me, but not back when I was 18. My friends are no longer my friends. They're backstabbing little shits who deserved everything they got. They think they can take everything I've built, everything I've worked for, with no consequences. My friends did plan to kill me. They think I'm taking this too far now. Ever since I graduated college, I've been revolutionizing the world with my technology, being able to step into another time, thus viewing life from any angle imaginable. They tried to tell me what I was doing was dangerous and that it would alter the world in ways unimaginable. They had no idea what they were talking about. They wanted me dead, but they knew they couldn't do it. They plotted out different ways of how to do it, keeping it in a journal. I knew I couldn't just outright kill all 4 of them. There'd be way too much bad press. But what I could do is finally use what I've been working on all these years. So I pulled the whole go back in time and kill Hitler when he's a baby. That whole philosophical shit about if you go back in time to kill a baby Hitler in order to stop the Holocaust. I was able to warp time, don't ask about the science, you wouldn't get it, and kill all of my friends when they were stupid teenagers so they couldn't try and stop my revolutionary work. I killed them in the ways they planned to kill me because I thought I'd add a touch of irony to the whole thing. I left the journal they wrote all of their murder plans in to my teenage self, hoping this would make him understand. I think I might have just created a paradox, though. Thank you for listening. That was, I think I created a paradox? Don't forget to like the video, it does help to boost the channel.
There's new stories every Sunday.
Not to mention the shorts on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So subscribe.
And ring the bell.
Thanks, guys. And, as always, stay sleepless.